I want to start making videos on helping you guys with your anxiety. I've suffered anxiety my entire life, and to my best judgment, it's been on the higher end in terms of how much people suffer from it and how bad it gets. I could definitely tell you I'm one of the worst cases that I know of, if not the worst. A big reason for anxiety is because of your overthinking, obviously, but we're going to find out ways to reduce it and get it to as low as possible. Now, let me ask you this. On your happiest day, the best day of your life in the last 2 years, how much were you thinking? How much was your brain thinking throughout that day? Probably very little to none. Why? Because you were living in the present moment. You were living in the moment, and your mind was fully present to the activities and what you were doing that day. Now, let's look at the opposite. On your worst day in the last 2 years, how much were you thinking? Odds are probably a lot, if not the entire day. For example, you lost your job, bad breakup, stuff like that. You were probably thinking all day about this and how this could have went this way and that could have been done differently and 50,000 other different things. You were thinking about it all day. And of course, those are bad things happening, but there's a difference between thoughts and thinking. Thoughts are normal, thoughts are okay. Thinking is a verb. It means it's something you actually have to, not physically, but kind of physically. It's mentally draining. It's something you mentally have to do, is think, and it wears you out. And no one's ever thought, well, I guess no one has ever thinked, to use the right word, no one has ever thinked themselves into happiness and peace. Like I said, your happiest day, you probably weren't thinking much at all. You were living in the moment. And on your worst, you were thinking all day long. That's something to think about. And I recommend this book. I know it's all over TikTok a lot on the TikTok shop, and I'm not going to get any money if you buy it. You don't have to buy it. I recommend you buy it because I've only read about 6 chapters, but it still offered me great advice, a lot of great ideas, and new mindset I can adapt. And if you guys want me to, I can summarize every chapter, one through the end. I forget how many there are. I can summarize every single chapter and give you guys like the main points, key points, the best tips, because it really is a good book so far. And a lot of your depression, mental illness, and anxiety comes from the fact of your overthinking, what goes on in here. And I want to help you guys control it, win it, and overcome the obstacles.